Living Life Juicy podcast. Conversations with interesting people you should know. Welcome back to the Living Life Juicy podcast, where we explore how we can be present and kind as we do great things. I'm your host and guide, John Losey, but not for this one. I've invited back Matt Campana to ask me 3 questions. Matt is the founder of Hands of Gratitude, and we had a wonderful conversation last episode, but now he's taken over the mic and he's going to ask me 3 questions. So take it over.
All right, John, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, the first one, what are you most concerned about, whether it be culturally, business-wise? What might keep you up at night?
Well, I think the personal one is rebuilding my business after the pandemic. I poured a lot of time and energy into a crowd of people, the consultants, the facilitators, who don't have budget for my services. And so when we came out of that, I realized I'm having to build business relationships all over again. But honestly, that'll keep me up at night. But the big thing that keeps me up in a really existential sense is the fact that we can no longer talk with each other, where our identity is so wrapped up, especially in politics, that even loved ones, we get into these major disagreements, and that does nothing to bring us closer together. It seems like we're seeking out ways to get further and further apart. And rather than figuring out not how to win an argument, but how to gain understanding. Mm-hmm. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody else. And my desire is that we get closer to the truth, not that I win an argument. Mm-hmm. And I'm competitive. So if I forget to be present and kind, I will go for the rhetorical jugular rather than seeking understanding. Mm-hmm. I can be really competitive, and I got to remember that, to me, if we can't talk to each other, we'll never address or even be able to define the biggest issues of today. So that's the thing that really keeps me up.
Certainly a challenge. Okay, the flip side of that coin, question 2, what are you most hopeful for?
Hopeful.
Or optimistic about.
Right, yeah. Well, one of the things is, like, what you're doing is helping people understand to lead with gratitude. And when I lead with gratitude, it refocuses my thinking and my attitude on possibilities rather than deficiencies. So as long as we spread the word about gratitude, as long as that's why the whole idea of being present and kind, I don't think you can be kind if you're not present. So I'm hopeful as I come across amazing people. That's why I do this podcast, is I try and introduce the world to amazing people I know. And I think everybody else should know. And normally it's about that, finding unique ways to be hopeful. I don't think that my way of being hopeful is what everybody should do. And I'm always curious about that same question. What allows this person to have such a great impact on the world? It's totally different from me, and I can learn from that. So I think if I'm what regenerates my hope is when I don't look at the divisiveness. You know, it's Mr. Rogers' mom's advice: look for the helpers. And when I find the helpers, I'm blown away at the impact that they have. They just don't get the press.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. That's awesome. So the next one is kind of family oriented. Like, you're a great dad. You, along with your wife, are great parents to your son. So what are you most hopeful for your son as he grows up?
So Pax is my boy. He's 10 years old. So I'm about, a decade behind your boys?
Yeah, they're 23 and 20.
Yeah. And so I worked with kids for a long time, but honestly, it's a lot different when they live with you 24/7. The challenges are much different. I think what I'm most hopeful is I love his imagination. And he's an only child, so I look for ways for him to interact with other kids. But when he is at his best at home, he is so inventive. The last couple of years, when the Rams won the Super Bowl, he became a huge Rams fan, and now he's still a Rams fan. And then this year he got into it. He hated the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift, and all the boys at school were saying you can't like the Chiefs. But he now invents his own NFL seasons. And he has traced the logos of almost all of the professional teams. Lay them across the floor, and then he'll pretend football games, and they'll have whole records. And he has also,
Wow.
along with his own NFL league, he has made a few of his own teams. Like his team, which is made up of all of his friends at school, are the Newbury Park Thunderbolts. And they play against the Rams and the Chiefs. And he also has like the Portland Oysters and another one just called the Dirt. So I love his imagination and his ability to just be positively in his own world.
Yeah.
But he's also not like, he doesn't live in a fantasy land. He clearly knows what he makes up and what he doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to watch him be that kind of a kid.
Amazing. So cool to see their way their mind works and be so creative. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Well, thank you for the wonderful questions and allowing me to share a little bit about. I love those questions about what's concerned and hopeful, because we all have those things.
Mhm.
And I think as long as we focus on the second question, the current concerns will always be there. But if we look for the hopefulness, if we look for the helpers, it'll help us all out. So thank you again, Matt.
You're doing your part. You're doing your part. Thanks, John.
Be present and kind as you do great things.